Good morning or good afternoon, wherever you are. Welcome to the Mary and Sam Show, episode number 4, and we have an exciting one for you today. Today, we're going to be talking about jealousy and how that can affect you in more ways than one. Often, people see jealousy is in an intimate relationship, and what really happens is, while that may be true, that spills over into your work, spills over into your family life with your children and your other loved ones. So Mary, starting off today, first of all, welcome, and tell us the definition of jealousy.
Yes, the definition of jealousy, obviously, some of you already might know this, but in a relationship is the state of being suspicious about someone's unfaithfulness. And in real life, as a personality trait, when you're jealous, it's the state of being envious of someone's accomplishments and achievements.
Oh, okay. Well, I know that I was just thinking about this. And there was a part of my life when I was a little bit jealous, and I'm normally not a jealous person, but I think I know where it stemmed from for me. It was, as people that know me, I've often struggled with my weight. It's always been an issue for me, and ever since growing up. So one of the things that I remember was my grandmother always telling me, "Oh, you need to lose weight. You need to lose weight so you can be thin." And I always had that in the back of my mind. So sometimes, early on in your childhood, a lot of jealousy comes from insecurity about yourself.
Yes.
Therefore, thinking I'm not good enough to be with somebody, and that can then translate into your relationships. And so, what I realized is, okay, well, my grandmother meant well for me to be healthy.
Yes.
Obviously, it affected me in other ways, and that carried on into our relationship as well. So I think it's very, very important to recognize where your jealousy is coming from. What's the root cause of it, and what's behind it for you? It can be a number of things, but primarily it's because of self-confidence issues that you may have, and therefore you're projecting it on as a jealous person onto your partners.
Yes, and obviously stems from insecurities. And when you're not secure about yourself, about who you are as an individual, then obviously that shows up in other aspects of your life, like you said, in your relationship, at work. And this is a subject that is so dear to my heart because obviously we all struggle with this, and some people struggle to the higher degree and some people struggle at the lower degree. And I remember times that I was insecure about just my own self, because as children, when we're growing up, a lot of the feedback we're getting from the society most of the time is negative. It's not positive, right?
Right.
And so that ultimately brings that upon you and reflects that and makes you feel insecure about who you are. Especially for ladies, beauty is so important for us because we want to feel important and significant through our looks. And if something is lacking, and if we see that in somebody else, that makes us feel insecure about who we are.
Sure.
And obviously that will show up at work, because if you're not secure about your own ability, about feeling confident, like who you are as an individual and what you bring to the table, whether that is in your relationship. What I mean by that, you bring to the table is like, what value do you bring to the table as an individual?
Right.
And what value do you bring at work? If you don't own that and know that, then that's going to translate, as this insecurity and as a jealous person, and that's going to have a negative reflect on you.
Oh yeah, totally. And I think, if you want to be successful, having an issue at home with your jealousy is going to spill onto your work. I mean, whether you are the boss or you're working for an employer, if you're constantly worried about what's going on outside your relationship, that's going to negatively impact your performance at work. And pretty soon people around you will notice that. It's very easy to tell who's happy and who's performing at a higher degree than who's not. Because I've been in management positions where I can totally tell what's going on in the world, and I guarantee you your boss knows it too.
Yes, absolutely. And I remember a time when I was a lot younger, and then this was in my 20s, and when we were dating, I felt those moments of jealousy. And those were the moments, like your personalities, you're very outgoing, you're a social person, and you would like talk to, you're social, you talk to just about anybody and crack jokes. This is who you are.
Anybody that'll listen.
Exactly. And so I would, especially if you would crack jokes with ladies, I remember we were sitting at this restaurant, and then you always, would mention people by their name and if they're serving something, and you start cracking jokes, and I wasn't used to your personality. Plus, I felt very insecure about myself. So I would get jealous. I would get so mad and pissed off, like, why are you like joking with other ladies? And ultimately what that translated, obviously at that time I didn't know, all I could see is like, you are joking with some other people, and that made me feel insecure about myself, because I would look at that woman and say, oh, so maybe she's got something more that I don't have. And that created my own insecurity, because I was already insecure about myself.
Yeah.
So now today it's a total different ballgame, because I really don't care who you talk to, and it doesn't even affect me like by 1%, because I know who I am, I know my own value, and I'm confident about myself. And obviously that took a lot of working on my personality and self-improvement to make sure that I'm secure about myself, so that doesn't affect me.
Yeah.
Because how many times do we really spend time at home like arguing, or discussing these issues when people are jealous? Like, there's so much wasted time where you could spend that time developing yourself or improving at work.
That's a key point, I think, is that to emphasize the fact that the more you work on yourself as an individual, whatever gratification that gives to you, I think that makes your self-confidence grow. And ultimately, that's the key that's going to help you become less jealous. And I just want to touch on a point you said earlier about jealousy and envy.
Yeah.
I think they're the same coin, but it's on the flip side of the coin. So jealousy can show up in, oh, I'm jealous because I'm worried about, maybe you looking at somebody or something like that. Or I'm envious of somebody. That is also a form of jealousy, because it's a two-sided coin. And if you work on yourself and make yourself stronger as a human being by whatever means that's going to make you feel more important, I think that's the key. For me, it was, through doing those Ironmans, through doing these really long distance endurance sports, made me feel more confident about myself and who I am. Also, going back to school, getting a master's really, really helped me understand my value that I bring to this relationship. And so therefore I started to think about, well, what do I have to be jealous about, right? Anybody would kill to be with me.
Yeah, that's right. Now, I want to, expand a little bit more on and why also in relationships we become jealous. Obviously, the definition is, again, that you are doubtful of someone's unfaithfulness. Now, there's twofold to that. One is that that person, that individual, that partner has done something to give you a reason to be doubtful. The other part to that is that maybe something happened to you in the past relationships that a similar situation is reminding you of that.
Oh, yeah.
And making you feel doubtful. Because I've worked with couples that were one partner receiving that the partner was so jealous, and she's like, I haven't done anything. I don't know why my husband or my wife is feeling jealous. And ultimately goes back to past relationships that failed, or someone cheated on you, or they were not, faithful. Then that reminds you of a similar situation, and this other partner is getting it for no reason, and she doesn't even know, or he doesn't know why he's behaving that way or she's behaving that way.
Right. It's kind of like a muscle memory, what they talk about when you're an athlete and you've done something and you stop doing it, and all of a sudden you start exercising and your muscles know that you've done this before. Well, the same way your brain is a muscle, right?
Yes.
It remembers things that has happened to you in the past, and therefore it's constantly trying to protect you.
Yes.
That's what we talked on the last show, was the subconscious mind, or the unconscious mind, that's really behind the whole thing. It records everything, and therefore if you had a bad experience, it's going to go back, oh, I remember this from back then, I better protect you now.
Yes. And I always like to help people understand where it stems from. So that's where it stems from in a relationship. And jealousy, to some degree, believe it or not, it's very healthy. And how is it healthy, and how is it non-healthy ways that it shows up? Obviously, it's healthy because ultimately, when I'm jealous, the translation of that in real life is I want you, I love you, and I want to keep you to myself, right?
Yeah.
So that's the highest intention, but people
Yeah.
forget that. So they
Right.
get into arguments, and the other party is not recognizing that, well, this person want me because of the qualities I have.
I think in healthy doses. It's like salt, right? On food, a good amount of salt is okay, but too much can make it nasty.
Absolutely.
So the same thing with jealousy. I think it's kind of like if a little bit is good,
Yep.
if it gets to a certain point that it becomes cumbersome to everybody, then it's hindering you.
Well, if it's overboard, it's obviously, yes, that person receiving it, you're controlling that person, right?
Yeah.
If you feel in control.
Like fatal attraction.
Oh, yeah.
That's,
oh, my
that's
God.
probably too much.
Well, that's to the extreme degree, but that's what happens though.
Yeah.
Some people get to that degree that they want to control that person, and the person being controlled, they can only handle it for so long, because who wants to be held as a prisoner?
Yeah,
That you
true.
can't go places, you can't do the things, you can't be yourself. When you can't be yourself, it's not going to work for a long time.
Right. I had a friend who would totally freak out if his wife looked, if she started to dress nice, if she started to go anywhere, if she would look at anybody outside of him. You know, he was always freaked out. And ultimately what was doing that is it was eating him alive. And it was hurting her because she had no intentions of doing anything wrong.
Right.
Unfortunately, he had a whole lot of insecurities about himself, which led to, you know, just a bad relationship ultimately.
Yes, and I actually had a couple of cases last week that we were talking about, because I coach a few people that are husband and wife together, and it's so nice because I get to work with both of them together. Now, apparently it was a very, very similar situation where the wife had no clue what she was doing, and then the husband felt like, you know, very jealous about the situation. Now, what's the solution? How can you heal this? Because it could be a disease. It could ruin relationships. It could ruin you as an individual. It could hold you back from your success. What can you do? Step number one is to recognize that you have that feeling inside of you, that you are, to like raise your hand and say,
Yeah.
I am jealous. I have this feeling. And it's a yucky feeling. It's driven from fear.
Yeah.
Step number two is, what can you do to repair that or go back and rebuild your self-esteem? What are the things that you need to work on, that in areas that you lack? Maybe getting a job, maybe go getting a skill, educating yourself. Maybe if you are feeling overweight or not sexy about yourself, maybe go lose some weight to make sure that you're feeling confident about your ability. That's what you can do. You cannot make a partner stay with you, but I promise you, 100%, when you work on yourself and you know your self-worth, what you bring to the table as a husband, as a wife, as a partner, you own that, then your partner will love to stay with you. Because most of the time, if you're insecure, that behavior is relevant about you, the partner is feeling that, it's already turning the partner off.
Yeah, the more confident you become, the more attractive that becomes. I think one of the reasons why, you know, you see this in politics. There's two opponents. Whoever comes across the most confident, usually people go for that.
Yes.
People want confidence. They don't like weakness. They don't like fear. They don't like anger. All of those things you have starts to project onto the world. Once somebody told me that the world is a mirror.
Yes.
It's a reflection of back to you, of you. And that was really hard for me to understand, because I was feeling, you know, being in sales, sometimes you feel, oh my God, nothing's going my way.
Yeah.
And what he said to me, and trust issues, we talked about that in the last show. You know, I have a lot of hard time, even though I'm in sales, I have a lot of hard time trusting other salespeople.
Yeah.
Because I was hurt when I was young as a child, so it comes back to that, right? And so when he said the reason you're not trusting anybody is because it's a reflection of you,
Yes.
that really hit home. And the same thing, if you're jealous, if you're fearful, that's just, you're projecting that onto the world, and anybody that's around you is going to feel that and sense that. So the key thing is to work on yourself, like you were saying.
And nobody's born with high self-esteem. Everybody's born equally, but with a different amount of fear and obviously personality traits. But one thing you can do is work on yourself and become more confident. I wasn't confident. I mean, if I could imagine doing a show 15 years ago, I would have said, no way.
Yeah.
But it's because of what I believe in myself and what I want to do to the world, make a difference. And owning that, it gives you the confidence to do it and really don't care what feedback or what people are going to think of this. Because again, if it's going to help one person, we've made a difference.
Right.
And you know, my leadership coach, John C. Maxwell, said one thing that it really touched me. He said, you can be successful if others believe in you, but you will never be successful if you don't believe in yourself.
Oh, I like that. Well,
and one more point.
Yeah.
You know, jealousy, that, you know, a healthy way that it shows up at work, what could be a healthy way and how could it show up as an unhealthy way? Mm-hmm. Now, obviously, at work or just overall in life, when you notice someone's achievement or accomplishment, right?
Right.
You kind of feel like, oh, I wish that was me. I wish I could have had that.
Right.
Right? Envious of somebody. Well, it's healthy because it's only an indication that what that person has, you want that, and
Yes.
you don't have it yet.
Mm-hmm.
And so you wish that you could have that. It's healthy to go back and say, oh, I like what this person has or what he or she's doing. I want to do that. Now, what do you need to do to go get that yourself? That means you're creating that competition. Like,
right.
go become a competitive. Go do that yourself, instead of, you know, watching somebody who keeps doing it and you're not taking any action.
Right. Go learn the skill. Go do whatever it takes to be as successful as that person, because ultimately success leaves clues behind. And one of our dear mentors in coaches, Tom Ferry, always would say that
Yeah.
there's a formula for everything. You just have to follow it. You don't need to reinvent the wheel. Okay? So you don't need to reinvent the wheel. If you like somebody, follow it. Model them.
Yeah.
Right? And Tony Robbins says the same thing.
Oh, obviously,
You know,
yeah.
modeling is what everybody does. It's good to model somebody. Find somebody you like, you admire that person, whether they're in business, whether they're like a guru like Tony Robbins, or a Warren Buffett for me. I love that guy. and figure out what it is you want, and then follow them. You'll get to the same place.
Yeah, because ultimately, when the jealousy shows up in an unhealthy way, it's like you have that anger. You know, you're jealous, and it's that. What you said, you know, that Yoda said takes you to the dark side, right?
Oh yeah.
Fear.
Yoda's great because he says, fear leads to anger. Anger leads to the dark side. And so it starts from being fearful. Really, so true.
Yeah, and for those of you that have read the book Think and Grow Rich, I was just reviewing that this morning about the section of jealousy, and it's a very fear-based, and it could show up in a very negative way. And the good news is that we can all work through that and become healthy for going after what you want. Ultimately, is the desire, what do you want, and go get it.
Well, we had a great show today. Thanks so much for watching, everyone. And next week we're going to be talking about when, on episode number 5, when one of your partners, or in a relationship, one of the partners is feeling depressed, and what's ultimately behind that. So please share this on Facebook with your friends and family if you think somebody could benefit from it. Pay it forward. Also, if you need to go back to one of these videos, they're all up on YouTube, and Mary has a link on this page, right? So she'll have the link
page.
On the Facebook page. So she'll have the link for the YouTube. And if you ever have any questions or anything like that, please send us an email to marys@marynowabi.com, or Facebook message us.
Yep.
Certainly we get those as well, and we love to hear your comments and your feedback on what we can talk about. If there's something you'd like for us to touch upon, I know Mary sees a lot of the things we're talking about in her coaching practice, so it makes sense for us to do this show and talk ultimately to everybody about it. Until next time, it's great to be with you guys.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.